Yo. All right, guys, back with another video. So this is gonna be a bit different of a video compared to all my other videos, which are basically just like card reviews or fight reviews, some things like that. So today, the video that I am doing, I'm pretending to be Sean Shelby or Dana White or any UFC matchmaker for a day, and just I'm gonna give. So far, I have a list of like 6 potential fights. If I think of more as I'm recording, we'll shoot them in there as well. But first up, this connects to this past weekend. We had Rafael Fuzzi versus Rafael dos Anjos, and then after the fight itself, when talking to I believe it was Michael Bisping, Fuzzi said that he wants to see who's the best Rafael in all of sports, so he called it Rafael Nadal, which was like hilarious because like before, I don't know if you guys have seen this on Twitter or YouTube or something, but Fuzzi is actually the fighter who called Hasbullah.
What a fantastic fight. Hasbullah! You think I will what I do? You want to fight? You fight with me, bro!
Bruh. So he called out Hasbullah, and then more recently...
Now I want to say, now we know who's the best rapper in the UFC. Now we know! And now I want to make a new challenge. Who is the best rapper in the sport? Rafael Nadal. Come here.
Bro, yeah. He called out Nadal. But then actually after the fights, when they have their post-fight conference and all the journalists are asking him questions, Fuzzi said more seriously that he would love to fight Justin Gaethje. Gaethje's also in the same league. They're both elite strikers, like the best of the best strikers. And I'm personally, as a fan, I'm super interested to see how Fuzzi would handle Justin Gaethje's pressure. I think Gaethje's pressure is crazy when it comes to striking. Fuzzi is an amazing striker. I would just love to see that matchup. And also the next few of my fights, I'm just address this right now. I'm not going to talk about Jon Jones just because who knows if he's actually fighting. Dana's been talking about a possible Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic. That fight would be crazy, but who actually knows if Jon Jones is fighting? So the next fight, I'll be super hyped to see, actually. Nate Diaz versus Tony Ferguson. I mean, Nate Diaz, obviously he's been going through his contract issues. He has said he's done with the UFC. He just wants out. He just wants his freedom to be able to do basically whatever he wants. If you guys haven't, go check out Ariel Helwani's interview with him. As I'm recording this, it was the day of. But I will have it linked in bio, so definitely go check that out. But basically on there, Nate was saying that like they offered him a bunch of fighters and he was like, yo, I'm not trying to fight anyone. There's no one left who can fuck with me, basically. But all in all, he was just like, I want out. But one name that he did mention, and one name that I would personally love to see in the octagon, Tony Ferguson versus Nate Diaz. It makes perfect sense because, I mean, clearly they've both been losing. They're both older. They're around the same age or a similar age. Also, both of their fan bases are crazy. Like, I think UFC fans as a whole love Nate Diaz and they love Tony Ferguson. Like, you can't hate either person. So that's why I think from a fan point of view, from an entertainment perspective, even for the UFC, and also their matchups are somewhat similar. I think this would be a perfect fight to pull off. Like, I think this would be perfect for both fighters. It would be perfect for the UFC as a whole. And also from a fan side, I would love to see that shit. Also, I think the pre-conference, bro, the funniest part of all this, they both hate the UFC. I think this is actually perfect because Nate wants out of the UFC. Tony's last few fights, he's been kind of voicing his displeasure at the UFC and like how they basically don't even pay him right. Like, he has a bunch of issues with the UFC. So I think even on that end, in a very funny way, they both hate the UFC. Or I mean, actually, I don't think either one really hates the UFC. They just don't like some shit they do. So I think this would be a hilarious. I think this would be also a hilarious pre-fight conference if they were both to be there. Because it's like, are they both just going to shit on the UFC? Or they're going to shit talk each other? Or are they just going to be calm? Which, I mean, I would hate that as a fan. I would love for my ideal scenario would be them just going at each other. And then at the end, somebody just shitting on Dana White. I think that would be perfect. Like, especially if a journalist asks some question about, like, you guys both kind of have been showing displeasure at the UFC and they just decide to go off on the UFC. I think it would be amazing. And that shit's bound to happen. I mean, this is Nate's last fight on his contract. I feel like this fight just makes perfect sense. So next up, Jorge Mosfidal versus Conor McGregor. I mean, I think Jorge's been a little bit cringe about this. And like Connor's responded to him on Twitter and stuff. Just kind of sort of roasting him. Definitely the way that Mosfidal's trying to get it is stupid as hell. I think it's stupid. It's very cringe. Like, he's just doing some dumb shit. But like, if you take that away, this fight will be great. Like, they're both, again, like Nate and Tony are in that kind of older, they're starting to suck, and they have something to prove now. I think Conor as well as Mosfidal, everyone's been like, okay, they're kind of trash now. Who knows if they'll be any good? So I think that's why this is a perfect matchup. And I think with this fight, whoever loses, you're like, okay, he kind of sucks now. He definitely should either think about retiring or he's going to just be fighting older people. I think you place him in that category. I think if Conor wins, he's probably going to go for the title because he's Conor. But like, even for Mosfidal, it would be like a top five. Next fight would be a top five competition. My only thing is they better not do, because I've heard, especially when that shit was going around, a bunch of journalists were like, yeah, what if they fight for the BMF belt? Like, first of all, one, it's not a real belt. That shit's the dumbest thing ever. And like, you know how it makes this shit goofy as hell? Is that they had The Rock presented. Like, if it's the real BMF belt, you have someone like a Mike Tyson, like an actual fighter there who can like present the belt. Like, just look how goofy this shit looks. Bro, like, look at this. Look how goofy this shit looks. Like, you have The Rock just randomly there with a belt that says BMF on it. Like, it's just so goofy to me. Like, granted, the whole thing was just like an entertainment ploy or some type of stunt, but they just need to get rid of that shit. Like, that was the dumbest thing ever. But I mean, other than that, on paper, this fight will be lit. Both strikers, they're both are going to be going for the knockout. I think on top of that, they both have something to prove. So I think they're both going to be coming in with a chip on their shoulder. Pre-conference, the shit talk's gonna be crazy. Already on Twitter, it started, so it's probably gonna continue on Twitter as well. So I mean, this whole fight, again, this is another one that just makes sense. Then the next two, these are kind of just quick hitters. For one, Michael Chandler versus Dustin Poirier. Like, if you guys haven't seen UFC 276, they both had to get separated from each other. Check it out. So yeah, that's Dustin. That's Michael Chandler. In the back. You a fake motherfucker. like they're just talking shit. So I mean, already they have beef. They have some type of build up. I think they were both on talk shows too, just saying they don't like each other. And I mean, again, like all of them, strikers, both strikers. The fight itself is gonna be insane. And I mean, if you look at the lightweight rankings right now, Dustin Poirier is ranked 2, and then Michael Chandler is 4th. So, and then also on top of that, Dustin's coming off a loss to Oliveira for the belt. Michael Chandler had that crazy ass knockout against Tony Ferguson. So I mean, yeah, man, so yeah, man, it just makes sense. It's the same weight class. They already hate each other. But like, it's perfect. It's perfect. Also, they're both just entertaining as fighters. Like, I always want to see Michael Chandler fight. I always want to see Dustin Poirier fight. Like, we might get a Chandler Gaethje again. Like, this is just gonna be lit. So just makes sense, man. Lastly, again, just another quick one. Hamza Chimaev, Colby Covington. Again, just makes sense, man. Obviously, we haven't seen where Colby is since that Mosfidal incident. He hasn't said shit. He hasn't posted anything, like, not a peep. So who knows what he's up to. Hamza, same thing. I mean, he just trains in Sweden. I think I saw something recently. He got married. So shout out to him for that. But yeah, there's been no Smash Brothers video of him and Darren Till pulled out. He got injured. But yeah, with Hamza, it just makes sense to fight Colby, who's ranked number 2. If he beats him, you go straight for the belt. With Colby too, I think this is the best way to get to fight for the belt again. Hamza's obviously just different. So for Colby, a win over him, that should do it for another chance at the belt. Again, just another one. It just makes sense, man. And I think that might be the most likeliest too. I would say either Michael Chandler and Poirier or the Hamza Colby fights. Those two are probably the most realistic. I don't know about the other 3. And maybe Fiziev and Gaethje might be up there too as a very likely one. But maybe Fiziev has to fight someone else to get there. Who knows? Definitely Chandler Poirier, Hamza Colby. Those two gotta happen. Like, it just makes sense. But yeah, man, with that, be sure to follow all of the links in the bio. Check out the podcast. Check out me on all socials. Come through, join the Discord. Check out the live. All the good stuff, man. But yeah, with that, out of here. Peace.